The United Nations General Assembly on Monday discussed the annual report of the International Criminal Court. South Africa as well as Burundi's withdrawal came up. During the discussions, the European Union declared its support for the court. In the report released on the UN media Twitter account, the ICC notes that the challenge faced by the international community have become more complex. It also adds that there is need to reassert the court's functions and reaffirm the court as a key actor in today's global agenda while striving for international peace, security and the rule of law. Let's get you more now on that. Liling Tan is standing by for us live from New York. Liling, a number of African countries have decided to pull out of the International Criminal Court. How has this issue been received and addressed during the presentation of ICC's annual report at the UN General Assembly?
Yes, this issue, Beatrice, is of growing concern, not just for the ICC, but for the international community as well. Now, at the General Assembly this session, the president of the ICC, Silvia Alejandro Fernandez, delivered remarks that provided highlights on the ICC's work over the past year. But more importantly, she also addressed this growing issue about the withdrawals from Burundi, Gambia and South Africa, but only fleetingly, however. Without mentioning the names of these countries, she stressed the importance of commitment from the ICC's member states as well as the international community to support the ICC's work. Now, she was cautious, but that's understandable given the criticism she's faced over her leadership of this agency that's tasked with investigating and prosecuting war criminals, suspected war criminals, perpetrators of crimes against humanity and genocide. But this agency has also come under fire for unfairly targeting African nations, or rather individuals from African states. And while her remarks were somewhat reserved and cautious, other countries were a lot more forthcoming about their concerns, expressing their worry that if this were that these withdrawals could undermine the credibility of the ICC.
Well, together with those three countries that have already made clear their intention, Kenya as well has made clear its intention. Just how concerned is the United Nations, though, that these first exits from the ICC might trigger an avalanche of withdrawals from other African states?
There is a lot of concern here from countries within and without, within and outside of Africa. Like, for example, during the General Assembly session, we heard from a range of countries that expressed regret over these decisions and also called on these countries to reconsider these moves. And the EU in particular said that the non-cooperation with the ICC would stifle the ICC's ability to work effectively. Now, some experts, experts and activists have expressed horror at this news, saying that by departing from the ICC, the moves effectively remove the only means or mechanism for which victims of suspected crimes against humanity can seek redress, accountability and justice for war crimes. And the Secretary General himself had spoken to the South African President Jacob Zuma as recently as this weekend, expressing his regret as well to South Africa's decision to withdraw, but also calling on South Africa to reconsider this decision.
Well, Liling, is it possible, though, for the ICC to be reformed so as to get rid of the perception that its prosecutions mostly target only African leaders and African states?
Well, it is possible, but it is also difficult. Remember that the ICC is only as effective, as strong as the sum of its parts, and in this case, as effective as the members who are signatories to the treaty. And in that regard, some of the most powerful nations in the world, Russia, China, and the US, as well as many countries in regions of conflict outside of Africa, including many Arab nations, are not a part of the ICC treaty. So that makes the ICC's work in terms of reforms or fixing its ongoing issues rather tricky. But that said, the ICC has in the past year expanded its scope beyond Africa, and it has investigated or is investigating reports of crimes committed, possible crimes committed in the 2008 war between Georgia and Russia, for example, as well as the 2014 Gaza conflict, and also reports of abuse by British soldiers in Iraq. So it's slow, but it's difficult, but it's still a possibility.
Right, Lilin Tang for us there in New York.